Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be presenting today. I had a couple of requests from the audience, which we're going to be talking about here in a little bit too, asking what do you guys want to learn about? So today we're going to be talking about the Accountant's Toolbox. So this is a feature of QuickBooks that is available in the Accountant's Edition of QuickBooks. Accountant's Edition, they have Pro and Premier Accountant, or the Premier Accountant, it works in Pro and Premier. They also have Enterprise Accountant, which is a separate software. I know some people have considered using QuickBooks Enterprise as their own, or QuickBooks Enterprise Accountant as their own software instead of using like the Manufacturing Edition, etc. We usually recommend not to do that. First of all, it's more expensive. And you keep on having to toggle into, the edition that you want to use. So there's some reasons not to use it. But as a QuickBooks Enterprise customer, one of the things that you get is you get access to a lot of the tools in the toolbox. And so we're going to be going over some of those today so you know what's there. And hopefully you can take advantage of some of them. So of course, we're going to be spending most of the time in product. As a reminder, if you missed any of our other trainings, you can go onto our YouTube channel. There's actually a playlist in there called the QuickBooks Enterprise playlist. We started these in October of 2021. So there are a lot of videos in there that you can go check out anytime. There are other videos outside of this. I mean, there's videos that I recorded from back in 2011. How to reconcile a bank statement, same thing, still pretty much the same process, how to do that today. So that video is still valid. And then of course we have our Facebook group, QuickBooks or Fourlane QuickBooks Enterprise Facebook group. There's just some ability to connect with other enterprise users in there. So if you haven't joined, go ahead and search for that on Facebook and join us there. As a reminder, we do have our support. If you had to call QuickBooks support this week and got frustrated, consider using our support. We're here for you, so you don't have to do that ever again. Okay, Accountant's Toolbox. So we're going to be talking about some different things today. Obviously, as always, I'm going to spend most of the time in product. Just a little recap here, but let me hop on over into QuickBooks. So I am in the Accountant's Edition because, of course, with our demos and our webinars, we have to, switch between all these different areas. So it will look a little bit different for you, basically. So the first thing is, in my edition, I have this accountant drop-down, right? So if you're in the Manufacturing Edition or the Nonprofit Edition, you're going to see a different menu bar up here. So it won't say accountant for you there. The way that you get access to the Accountant's Toolbox when you are in QuickBooks Enterprise, as the admin, you do not have access to the Accountant's Toolbox, which is strange, right? Like it's not something you can just go enable as the admin. What you have to do is you have to go set up a user. Now, we recommend here at Fourlane that even if you are the admin on a company file, to set yourself up as a user anyway, because you should only be logged in as admin when you need to do admin activities. Just because you have the admin username and password does not mean you should always be functioning logged in as admin. You should be functioning logged in as you as a user, because you may not be the only one with admin access. Also, if you have admin access, you may do something on accident that you didn't intend to do. So it's kind of like a way for you to make sure and check yourself, right? So I always set myself up as my own user, even though I also have admin access. So again, getting access to the Accountant's Toolbox, what you want to do is you want to set up a user, and it cannot be the admin user, it has to be a separate user, and you want to assign them the role of external accountant. Okay, so external accountant gets a lot of things, access to a lot of things in the QuickBooks file, so you don't want to assign external accountant to just anybody. It's basically unrestricted access, right, to payroll, like see everything. So this is a very free reign role that you can assign to somebody. However, if you need someone to be doing the activities we're going to be talking about today, they need access to a lot of the information. So you go in, you create a user, you assign them the external accountant role. So on Marjorie, as an example, I would edit and I would choose available roles over here, and I would assign it out, right? Add it to my assigned roles, okay? All right, now I'm already logged into the account, so I don't have to do that. But once you assign that role, then under company, you're going to see access to the accountant's toolbox. You should see it under there. Now, I'm saying that now. Who knows where QuickBooks will decide to stick it next week, right? Depending on the year, you might see it in different places, but most of the time it's showing up under the company dropdown, and you should see accountants area. If anybody wants to ping into chat, that'd be super helpful for me to know. If you want to go through and do this, follow along. I love when people do that. That's why a lot of people go back and watch our YouTube videos after the fact, actually, so that they can follow along. But I'd love to know maybe a screenshot. Send over a screenshot to me or email me a screenshot of where it shows up for you, because I have seen it in a couple different places before. Depending on the year, depending on the release. Okay, so areas we're going to talk about today. So we have in here batch enter transactions and batch delete or void transactions. So batch anything is frightening because in QuickBooks there is no undo, right? There is, when you say post, it posts. There is no, oops, sorry, Control Z, nope, doesn't exist. So whenever you're doing any of these things, you want to make sure that you've done a backup ahead of time. So for batch enter transactions, I'm not going to show you all of the ways to go about how to do this, but what I want to show you is give you enough tools to be able to feel comfortable navigating and maybe checking some of these things out if you think you could use them. So this does not replace for most of our clients Transaction Pro Importer. That can do a lot more importing, or Sasan, if people use that. I don't know if I say that the right way, but that can do a lot more than what you can do in here, but this can be extremely helpful. So transaction type for batch enter, we have the option to batch enter checks, deposits, credit card charges, bills and bill credits, invoices and invoice and credit memos, okay? These are singular lines, so you can't import a check that has like 27 lines on it. It's going to be one line per check, okay? And then once you set up and choose which transaction type, you have, bank account, it's going to be coming out of, if I chose bill, it would say what accounts payable account it's going to be coming out of, invoice, which accounts receivable account, right? So you can have that. You have over here the customized columns, so you can choose which columns you want to be able to copy and paste into. And then you can come in and batch enter transactions. Now they do have the split line down here. So if I were to put in, an invoice here to Dunning's Pool Depot, put in the amount of $500. I could put in the item of labor, right, quantity, all of the other fields. A lot of them default fill in for me. I do have the option to put in a split, but see how it pops up into another screen. So you have to copy and paste in each one as a split. So this is not the most, this is not the most effective way if you have multiple lines that you're pasting in for transactions, right? That would take you a really long time to have to put split and paste in to this screen a whole bunch of things. So anyway, if you are having to do that, let's talk about a different process using Transaction Pro Importer or the other import tools. But if you are doing invoices on a monthly basis, so like let's say we have some clients that are in like their water companies as an example. So they have a separate system. They bill the client for one line every month for their water or their water bill, right? Even though there's taxes and all these other things included. And what they're posting into QuickBooks, the separate software tracks all of their taxes and, locality, different amounts that they have to capture and all of that stuff. And it actually sends the statements out to the customers, this other system. But what the other system doesn't do is receivables, right? It doesn't say what's the customer balance, how much do they owe us, doesn't do if they owe us a fee for a late fee or an NSF fee or whatever it is, right? So we have to put that information in QuickBooks. So this is perfect way. So in that water company, it exports one line per customer account, and I can come in here and paste it in from Excel, paste it into the columns in here. Okay. Now, once you come in and customize your columns, by the way, you can reorder them, right? So it matches your Excel spreadsheet. You do have to make it match, or you don't. Well, you don't have to make it match if you want to post in each individual column. But best practice, right, would be to set it up where you can copy the entire Excel spreadsheet and just mass paste it in here. So we do have clients that use this batch import. Generally, I see it as invoices. That's the most common thing I see it used for. We also have some cleanup activities that we do. So if you watched my Never Negative video as an example, how to have never have negative inventory reflected in your books, we use the batch enter credit cards transaction. This can be used in other ways as well. Okay, some things that for cleanup. So again, it's in the accountant's toolbox because the thought is that this is going to be used for cleanup activities. So cleanup, if we have a whole bunch of bills that are outstanding that we are actually never going to pay, like somebody put them in the system a long time ago and we need to just get them cleaned up, we can batch enter bill credits, right, and then go in and use another tool we're going to look at in a little bit to mass write off those bill credits. So it can be used in ways to clean up as well. Okay. Other things I've seen, again, on the invoices side, same for cleanup. We were going to track all of our water bills to each individual customer in the system. We put 3 months worth of water bills for every single customer in our district in here, and now we decide we're not going to. We don't want to go in and delete them. We want to go in and create an offset to them, so we'll batch enter the offset, basically. I don't know why you wouldn't just go delete them if you made a mistake like that, but okay, so then coming in here, so that's batch enter. We also have batch delete or void. This one scares me. Delete is frightening. I don't like delete unless it's really a genuine mistake of like I just imported a whole bunch of stuff and I need to get rid of them. I really don't like the concept of delete. I also don't like the concept of void because void could be void in this period, void in last period, right? And it could affect prior periods. So you just have to be really aware of what you're doing. So in the batch delete or void area, we have the different transaction types. Again, invoices, checks, bills, sales orders. That's an interesting one for people, right? So you have too many sales orders out there. So you can say show voided transactions only, right? Which is awesome because then if you're trying to just get rid of zeroed out voided transactions, that might be a good thing. You can say show linked transactions. So is it linked to something else? So an invoice, as an example, may be linked to a payment and therefore cannot be deleted because the payment is in there. You can filter by certain customers if you needed to, show transactions by enter date, modified date, or transaction date. So this is one of the few places in QuickBooks that you can see and filter things by enter date, by created date. It should say created date. Last modified date. And then, so you can also do last 90 days and then give a custom period transaction or a custom period in here. So I'm looking at invoices in here as an example. I can select all these different invoices, review and void them, or review and delete them. Okay. You can double click and open up the invoices from this screen. I can decide to mass select and mass delete things. So if I go in and say review and delete, it shows me the information here. It gives me some warnings. QuickBooks removed deleted transactions permanently. You cannot undo this. You do get a report of what you deleted that you can see. Delete, avoiding linked transactions may have unintended consequences. Okay, payments applied to a deleted invoice will be unapplied. So that's what I'm saying. In the linked transactions here, if you go in and just try to delete the invoice, it won't allow you on the front end, right? So if I just went and delete invoice, it would say, hey, you have a payment you have to get rid of before. If the payment had a deposit, it'd say, hey, you have to get rid of your deposit before you can get rid of this payment. I'm sure you guys have all seen that. So this is just giving you another warning. And then batch, delete, void. They can't delete certain transactions, and then they give a list of which ones in here. So they have backup and delete, so they give you that option, right, of getting that backup done, which I strongly suggest doing, or just delete only. Again, it gives you another warning, and then goes through and says, what did it delete? So here, deleted these transactions. Okay, so what that would mean, if they had payments out there, they would still be sitting there. So the payments aren't deleted, right? Just the invoices are deleted. So you'd have to still go and deal with those payments. Okay. So ways I've seen when I've used or we've used batch delete, usually it's, whoops, I just imported something on accident. So I've had clients that use IIF file imports still, even though we don't always recommend using those. So they import a whole bunch of checks through an IIF file, and then they're like, oh, criminy, I did not mean to do that. So we go back and we say, show transactions by created date of today. It'll show all those transactions that they just imported, and then I can select and delete. Okay. All right, knowledge is power, right? Doesn't mean that we always want to use it. Okay, so going through, this is the next area. So client data review, you're going to see quite a bit in mine. There are some things that are available in the Accountants Edition that are not available in the Accountant's Toolbox. I don't know why they pick and choose things like this, but again, every year we tend to see more things shift to be available in the Accountant's Toolbox. So depending on the year you're in, you may or may not see all of these things. The couple that I want to touch on, so reclassify transactions. So we do have the ability to do this, where you can come in and choose an expense account. Let me choose, I think it's 2026. So I can come in, I can choose an expense account, and I can select all, right? Select all down here, and mass change the account to a different account, which is kind of strange that you would do this. This would be if you don't, because you can merge accounts, right? So why go through this process when you can just merge them? This would just be if you need to move the accounts for like this year, or the transactions for this year from this account to another account, right? So I could filter down the year, only select the ones for this year, and then move those versus moving all for all history if you were doing a merge. So I can move the account. You can only move the account if it's not an item-based account, right? So you can't fix it if it's an item. The other thing that you can do is mass reclassify. So I would be able to mass assign a class to all of these transactions, right? Manual pool systems, mass reclassify, and then it would stick those all in there. So pretty cool. Okay. One of the other ones that we have in here is we have fixed unapplied customer payments and credits. Same with vendor payments and credits. So it's the same thing, just one's AP and one's AR. And when you go into here, it's actually really nice because you have the customer tab and vendor tab, so you don't have to go into them separately. But basically what this does is it allows you to mass apply AP going down the line here. So I could say auto apply credit memos to invoices. You could do that, or you could check like this one is going to apply to that one. What's nice about this is you can use quick keys on it. So again, we had a client, as an example, that they imported their invoices, they imported their customer payments, they never applied the two together. So they only had a couple hundred customers, but they had thousands of transactions. So we went in and we showed them how to use quick key, right? Auto apply. So you click on it, hit Alt-T, hit Alt-S. It would apply them across the credit memos across the invoices, or the payments across the invoices, and it would save it, right? And then I'd be able to go to the next one, because they only show up in the list here if they have the ability to, like if there is a credit memo to apply, right? Or a payment to possibly apply. There has to be something on this side. And same with vendors. So pretty cool feature there. Again, I've seen it used. It's usually used in cleanup activities. All of these things are usually used in cleanup activities. If you're struggling, you say like, oh, I don't need to clean up anything. Maybe you haven't done a file review with us recently, but there's always stuff to clean up. Clear up undeposited funds account. So this is another one where it's kind of showing you just everything in the undeposited funds, right? And what it should apply to if there's anything that's outstanding in there. That's 2026. Let's see if there's anything in mine. But it's the same concept. We're just applying things against each other. Deposits, undeposited funds, like payments to deposits. Then we have our write-off of invoices. So you can come in, again, this is where this is helpful is if we don't want to have to create credit memos for everything. So you can come in and see, like, show me every invoice that's over 180 days old or a certain period, all charge types, right? Or just invoice, finance charges, statement charges, which account receivable balances, and then you can select all, choose the write-off item you're going to write off them against, choose the class and what the date is, and it will mass create the credit memos and apply them to the invoices there. So pretty cool function. We use this one a lot at year-end. So when we're doing year-end review, again, so we come in with our customers and substantiate their balance sheet for them at the end of the year before their balance sheet goes over to their tax accountant, just to make sure that we have nothing that we should be writing off, take advantage of whatever write-offs we can, right? So we go through this review with clients, and then we pick and choose which ones need to be written off, and we'll use that to automatically create those credit memos versus having to create them manually, right, which can be quite tedious. The other one that I'd like to point out in here, we have fix incorrectly recorded sales tax, which is basically the same thing as the vendor payment. So we recorded a sales tax payment, but it's not applied to the sales tax liability. So we're just going to make the two apply to each other. They have this compare balance sheet and inventory valuation. All that does is just tells us quickly, right, what is our balance sheet balance for inventory? What is our inventory valuation summary balance for inventory? And is there a difference? I know in the Facebook group the other day, I put in just a question out there like, hey, who's got negative inventory right now? Be honest, because pretty much everybody always does, right? But this just tells you that there is a problem quickly, and then it tells you some ways to possibly fix the problem. But you probably know what the problem is, especially if you've worked with us before. And it's usually a process thing, right? So we just need to review our process and make sure that we are not having that negative inventory. They do have Troubleshoot Inventory. So in here, you have the ability to see, and again, if you've seen some of our other inventory videos, we use this. But basically, was inventory ever negative at any point in time? This gives you the ability to see that, because QuickBooks does not like negative inventory. If you've ever had negative inventory, even if you fix it as of today, if it went negative at any time in the past, QuickBooks doesn't like it, so we have ways to fix that with you. But it's a pretty interesting little document here, right? So you can see when was the beginning quantity. It's kind of like a working trial balance for inventory. What's the beginning quantity? What was bought or built in this period of time? What was sold or used? How many were adjusted? What's the ending quantity for that inventory item? So pretty neat information in here. But we use it mostly for cleaning up inventory to be able to confirm inventory has never been negative ever before in this file, okay? Because it'll tell us if inventory has ever been negative. Then we have over here a couple more, just fix incorrectly paid payroll liabilities. So it's the same thing. You have a liability, you have the payment, they're not applied to each other. They do have the merge vendors. They came out with this a couple years ago, and I thought it was very strange. But I mean, I guess for people who need it, they need it. Basically, it allows you to merge multiple vendors together. So times I've seen this happen are, like, as an example, if somebody has gone in and set up, like you make a payment to American Express as an example, but you have 7 different American Express cards. And so somebody's gone in and set up the vendor and put in 7 different Amex vendors. And we really don't care how much we paid to Amex, right? We care how much we paid to the vendor on our Amex card. So I really don't care how many different Amexes are on there. So you can come in here, select multiple vendors. Usually when you merge a vendor together, you say, Blackwell's get merged into Baxter, and so I have to do one at a time. This would allow me to merge all 7 at once. So again, cleanup activity, yes. I don't see it used very often. The use cases are few and far between for us. And we talk to a lot of QuickBooks Enterprise customers every day. So this is not something that I see used frequently, nor have I had to direct people to that feature very often. You can see in here some of the other things. I know that probably somebody's getting excited. They've seen my drop down of send journal entries. Oh my gosh, I can send journal entries. I can import journal entries. But this is actually not so exciting. It is within QuickBooks. You can send journal entries, but it's basically you have given your accountant the accountant's edition, the accountant's copy. They have done some work in the file, and then sending journal entries into your live file. So it's only a QuickBooks to QuickBooks thing. It's not an Excel import thing. If you do need to import journal entries, let us know. There's apps for that, right? We can help you out with that. The other one, and the last one that I just wanted to point out, so good, doing good on time. I thought I was going to run out of time, so I started hustling through here. But that allows me some time to tell you what not to touch in here, I guess. But the last one I just want to point out is working trial balance. So they do have a working trial balance in here. So what this is, you're looking at your accounts down the left side, right? So this is your entire trial balance. For your file, what is the beginning balance for this period of time? What are the transactions that have, what is the net of the transactions for this period of time? Have we done any adjustments? So these adjustments would come in based on if we made a journal entry and we checked off that it is an adjusting journal entry. Everybody sees that and they're like, where does this go? Well, now you know where it goes. So if you checked off that it's an adjustment, it would show up in this adjustments column. So what would you expect to see in there? Tax adjustments, right? Book to tax adjustments. So any kind of journal entries that are not for day-to-day functioning, but more for like month-end, quarter-end, year-end, close adjustments in there, okay? Then we see the ending balance, and then you can put in notes over here for work paper references, links. I've seen clients put links in here to backup substantiation. You can also put in here if you need to make adjustments on accounts, you can have it make your adjustments for you, all right, which is nice. And then you can print this. So somebody was asking me the other day, a lot of times when you come from outside systems, so like a Sage, Mass 90, Great Plains, a lot of outside systems, when they come into QuickBooks, they're looking for this beginning balance, transaction total, ending balance. And so in this working trial balance area, I can print this. I could print it to PDF, right? And then I have the ability to see in a way that they're used to seeing in some other software. So this is the way that we get that beginning balance, transaction total, ending balance. So some people are just used to looking at their monthly transactions in that way. Okay. So some things not to touch in here. Oh, I'm just down to a minute. Some things not to touch in here. Definitely never touch the condensed data in product. You have access to it here in the edit preferences area. I'm sorry, in the file utilities area. Never do that. If you're thinking about doing it, call us first. Never do in product condenses ever, ever, ever. So that's something just to keep in mind. And then some of the other areas, manage fixed assets, right? QuickBooks File Manager, you have access to these things in other places in the program anyway. So I hope you had some ideas. I'd love to hear some ideas of how you guys would use these features. That would be awesome to hear. So if you think of any, share them with me in email, share them in the Facebook group. That'd be great. Because how we utilize these things, right? We just don't think, we don't think about it all the time. The way that we've learned how to utilize these things is customers throw a situation at us and we're like, hey, you could use this feature to do that. So I would love to hear how you guys are using this or how you plan to use that in the future. Coming back over to our slide deck, usually show in here future enterprise courses. We have a lot of courses out there, so I'd like to know what you guys need to see. Every time somebody emails me, I ask this question. We have some polls in our Facebook group, but if you have anything that you would like us to show, I'll let this sit up here for a minute, and you guys can put it in the chat box. What would you like to see? What do you need to see in Enterprise? What can we help you with? All right, guys. So that's it. If there's any other questions, I'll get to your questions after the meeting. We'll reach out to you after, but I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thanks, everybody.